archery becoming an increasingly popular sport, more and more people are buying bows and teaching themselves how to shoot. Although the predominant recommendation is to go to a club and take lessons, it isn't an option for many people, and some people just don't want to mess around the club scene. Fortunately, there are so many resources available online that teaching yourself how to shoot using video references is becoming increasingly viable. It is common online for people to recommend archery channels on YouTube. Among these channels is Archery TV, the official channel for World Archery. Coverage of World Archery events, including the World Cup and the World Championship, are put on this channel, and you can see the world's best competitive archers in action. Because of these world-class archers and champions, this channel is occasionally used as a reference for some people to learn how to shoot, watch the pros, and copy them. Personally, I don't like this advice. While watching them as a spectator can be quite enjoyable, learning from elite athletes isn't the easiest way to go about developing your skills. When people tell beginners to watch the pros and copy them, I get a little annoyed because it kind of disregards the learning process and the individual's needs. One thing to remember is the difference in equipment. The pro athletes are using target style equipment with modern materials and sights and stabilizers. If you've just gotten your Samick Sage and you're shooting traditional barebow, then it might not be a good idea to copy what they're doing on Archery TV. The shooting style is different, the technique is different, and while there are similarities, they're both recurves and there are similar techniques, you wouldn't really shoot a traditional bow the way you shoot an Olympic bow. Even if you do have the same equipment, remember they are professional athletes. They spend their entire lives training and conditioning and competing. If you're only shooting casually once or twice a week, there are going to be huge differences in the way you shoot. For example, if you watch some of the matches, you often see the top archers hold onto the shot for what feels like forever. Now, this is actually a bad habit. As a beginner, you're taught to execute the shot smoothly and within a certain time frame. You realistically only have around 2 seconds to get to your anchor point and release. If you hold on for any longer than that, you start getting the shakes. And in fact, if you look at some of the pro archers, they actually do go through shakes when they're on the line. Now, the difference is that with the pro archers, they are conditioned to the point where they do have the muscle control and the stamina to hold the shot for that perfect 10. As a casual shooter or as a beginner, even as an intermediate, you probably don't have that conditioning. And it's still a bad habit. You should be focused on process and a smooth rhythm and shot sequence rather than trying to aim, hold, and get that perfect shot. That's something that only a pro can do. And even so, it probably is discouraged by their coach, and they're only doing it because they have to get that perfect shot. And even then, it usually isn't the case. This doesn't mean that you can't do that, but it's more a skill that's developed over time with intensive training rather than something that's copied. The most important thing to remember when trying to learn from pros is that watching them is only valuable if you know what you're looking at. You can't become a pro footballer by watching Ronaldo. You can't become a professional boxer by watching Manny Pacquiao. They make it look easy, sure, but remember, these guys have had years of training, they've had someone explain concepts, they've learned through experience, and they have the skills which are specially trained up. If you've never experienced the same kind of training, you've never been exposed to that, then it's very difficult to pick up why athletes do certain things. I call this the spectator spectrum. Depending on your level of expertise and experience in the sport, you observe different things. For someone who knows nothing about archery, watching the archers at the Olympic Games is all about, hey, it's a bullseye! If you've actually done archery training and you're a novice or intermediate, you start making comparisons between what the pros do and what you've been taught. You observe their shot process, their stance, their rhythm, their anchor. You watch these really fine points in their technique, and you start observing and predicting which shots will be good shots and which ones will be bad shots. You even at the point where you can incorporate some of their techniques into your own style. And as you become more advanced, you become more critical of what archers are doing. You identify different shooting styles. You pick out different habits that people have. You can accurately predict the result of a shot before it's released. This is basically coach's vision. If you have a coach, they'll do this. It's hard to then you're shooting. The coach is standing over here, and they're just watching you. They don't care about where your shot lands. They're watching you. And with enough experience, you can actually read a person so well that before they even release the shot, they know where it lands. They know it's going to go left, they know it's going to go high, just by watching what you are doing. That's the advanced level. And from a spectator point of view, when you're watching these pro athletes, you're really looking for these fine things, like the way they use their clicker, and even things you can't actually see, like back tension. To benefit from watching a pro athlete, you need to have an awareness of what they are doing. To get that awareness, you need someone to actually explain it to you. You have to learn it from someone, from another archer, or from someone who's commentating, or from a coach, from your own training. For someone starting out with no experience and very little knowledge of archery, it's very difficult to explain things like back tension and anchor and release. It's very difficult to acquire these skills by yourself. And it's one thing to copy what they're doing, but if you don't understand what they're doing, you also don't understand if you're doing it wrong. When you've learnt what an anchor should look like, then it makes more sense when you watch somebody else. When you understand these nuances about archery, then you can fully understand why people do certain things. You start to understand why people personalize their equipment in a certain way, why they use a certain sight, or why they use a certain stabilizer setup. Archery is such a personalized thing that it's really about what suits you, which technique suits you, or which equipment suits you. Telling people to go and watch the pros, especially when they've never really learned archery before, isn't really helpful in my opinion, because the pros have their established styles and they've learnt through trial and error and through hard experience what their preferred shooting methods are. And really, for a beginner, they should be learning more from their mistakes. The learning process is starting out from scratch, learning everything as new, being taught the basic fundamentals before acquiring advanced skills. And by watching pros, while you can be inspired to learn more about archery, which is fantastic, it's not necessarily great learning. You don't really bridge that gap. Watching the pros kind of skips that development process, and really, as a beginner, you probably will benefit more from doing your own shooting and figuring it out by yourself, rather than watching somebody else and copying them. Arguably, the same can be said for nearly every sport. Now, I'm not saying don't watch the pros and don't watch these events. These events are greatly entertaining and you can learn a lot from the top shooters. But my point is that the more you already know about the sport, the more you gain from watching better shooters. So my question is, do you watch competitive events and why? Do you get something out of it, or is it something you do just for fun? Post your comments below. This is NUSensei, bringing you another Archery Annoyance.